I have, let me maybe talk against interest here. I have requested earmarks since my first day in Congress. Always saw it as part of my job. Always was willing to stand by every earmark I requested, and am to this day. I voted for the Farm Bill, though I don't expect to do that again. And so, some of my competitors in this race have never requested earmarks and opposed the Farm Bill. The reality here is that we all bear some blame for walking away from a core commitment to fiscal discipline and reform. And the reason I think I'm uniquely suited to lead our party back is because on a couple of key major signature issues, and particularly in my work leading the Republican Study Committee the last 2 years, I think that I have a unique credibility in my commitment to limited government and fiscal discipline, and I think we will need that credibility to win back the confidence of our voters in the short time span that we have.
Anyone in the room?
Jim?
Yes.
Congressman, I could ask a lot of policy-oriented questions, but I want to get to the horse race here. Two-part question. One, simply, what kind of response have you been getting? Do you have at least an internal count that you believe? And if you want to share it, obviously, please share it. But just what kind of response have you been getting? The second part of that is, is there any time in the course of this week and a half campaign to go to newspaper editorial boards, at least by phone, and to try to get them to urge their local congressman to support you? And if so, has that had any impact?
Two-part question. The first part is we do have an internal count, and no, I'm not going to tell you what it is. But we're encouraged. I think this is a very dynamic race. It's more dynamic with 3 in it than it was with 2, and we're very much we're in the show.
There is a lot of media. Are these other guys resenting this because it seems the shift in a lot of the media is towards you?
I don't perceive any resentment. Joe Barton and I spoke for 20 minutes very cordially on the floor last night at his request. I've not yet spoken to Leader Boehner, but I think they get the sense, and I get the sense that this is about a choice between good alternatives. This isn't about running against one another. But let me say, on the editorial board business, I was delighted when the Muncie Star-Press endorsed me this morning, but I'm pretty solid on their congressman's vote. I have to tell you that while I believe, and this is meant as no disrespect, particularly to the writers in the room of very prominent national magazines and publications in print and on the internet, but quite candidly, running for a leadership position in Congress is a lot more like running for senior class president, which is a race that I won. Running for senior class president is basically ends up talking to about 200 people. And you got cliques at high school. I had to get the shop guys to like me. I was pretty solid with the chess club and the speech team. But the jocks could take me or leave me, and I never got anywhere with the cheerleaders. And this is very similar to the kind of campaign I'm involved in now. And while they take some information from the outside, most of the information they take is from one another. It is a closely held process, and it's one that I'm not altogether sure shouldn't be closely held. I think members of Congress are, each of them, leaders, men and women of judgment, who have just proven their political acumen days earlier, and they have every right to apply their political judgment to who will lead our conference and this part of our national government. And so our focus is on the members. and talking to members.
Question
Although
from-
I'm glad to be here, really.
We're glad to have you.
On the phone call, if you please mute your phone, and when you ask a question, we'll help you record it. Thank you.
Particularly the person who is typing with a small child in the room.
Congressman, this is Howard Wortman from Extreme Wortman. In your opening remarks, you mentioned Nancy Pelosi. Wondering if you had any thoughts on her public embrace of Jack Murtha for the majority leader post.
You know, I'm just going to stick to my race. I will not be endorsing in that race. It does suggest that despite the rather euphoric and understandable victory lap that our Democrat colleagues were taking in the press last week, that things over there will likely be more interesting than they initially appeared. And I have to tell you that what I think I bring to the table is a certain cheerful pugilism that fully expects a target-rich environment. I think the Democrat majority will not disappoint in their willingness to advance everything from retreat in Iraq to tax increases, to onerous regulation, to consideration of articles of impeachment. It is going to be an embarrassment of riches for those of you on this call, and the whole punditocracy. And I think the challenge for the Republican conference will be to answer what will be an aggressive, liberal, big government agenda with substantive, thoughtful, mainstream conservative policy alternatives and a smile.
I wonder if you just have thoughts on, from the minority, how you work on changing the culture in the future.
The House majority adopts the House rules. I was personally grateful to read in USA Today that our incoming speaker is committed to putting names on earmarks. I mean, we already did that. I'm glad they intend to do it again in this new rules package. There is much more that needs to be done. It is not just a matter of people knowing who has made the spending request. It is that members should have the opportunity at every stage of the legislative process to call a vote and challenge specific earmark provisions. I am not opposed to members of Congress under Article 1 of the Constitution having the ability to vote to spend the people's money in large ways and small ways. I am not categorically opposed to earmarking. I am categorically opposed to the kind of earmarking that has evolved over the decades, where members of Congress might anonymously slip spending projects involving millions or tens of millions of dollars late into the night between the sheets of omnibus spending bills without ever any debate and ever any accountability or consideration. We have to push for greater transparency, greater accountability, and a Republican minority will only be able to advocate those kinds of changes. But as we talk about ethics reform, and I expect my colleagues on the other side of the aisle will make an effort to move an ethics package, it will be important not only that we change the way lobbyists spend their money, but we have to change the way members of Congress spend the people's money. And it will be imperative that members of Congress and thought leaders around this table and around the country press our new Democrat majority to put our money where their mouth is and to change the fundamental way that we spend the people's money relative to earmarks. The answer is greater accountability, greater transparency, greater challengeability. If all we do is put names on earmarks that can be added at 4 in the morning, 2 hours before a 1,500-page bill is passed, we have not made progress. Whether we're calling them on it or we're working with them to create a truly bipartisan bill that serves the interests of the American people, it will be the role of the minority and the minority leader to press for substantive changes.